I'm gonna mute y'all, but you can certainly unmute yourselves when you want to. How do I do that? Hello. You think I had never used this before? Here we go. Okay. Linda finally figured out how to use Zoom after a few years. Oh, beautiful souls, welcome. Not even welcome, like thanks for coming. Great to see you. What a cluster of a week. Just when we thought 2020 was behind us, 2020 comes in with a flare, with a bang. I'm just gonna fix my screen here. You all can hear me fine? Okay. So I wasn't going to talk about this today. My topic was a different topic for today, and then Wednesday happened, and so I went through my own, not dark night of the soul, but my own inquiry of, can't we just spiritually bypass this? Can't we just go love and light on this thing? Can't we just know that all is well, and if we just focus on the light, all will be well? Well, yes, we can, and yes, we should, while at the same time, we want to acknowledge what's happening. Otherwise, we're sticking our heads in the sand and we're not actually being useful. And I actually had a very good mentor call me on the rug the day it happened, because I was starting to go all love and light, which I believe in. And she made me realize we are the bridge. We are the bridge from the 3D world to the 5D world, to the pain and suffering that is happening, to where we want to go as a culture. So that was why I shifted focus and decided today is about what's going on and how do we get through it. So there's a sweet spot. There's a third way between burying our heads in the sand and going all love and light, and being addicted to the news and being caught and triggered by what's happening. So there's a thin line. We can make it a wide lane if we want to. We can make it our life's path if we're really conscious to walk and live, to be in the world, but not of the world, as they say. This takes mastery. This takes doing. This is not something we are taught anywhere unless we choose the path and study it ourselves and surround ourselves with people who are on the path with us, which you all are. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the techniques we can use to keep us pointing in the right direction, because we don't solve anything in either one of those camps alone. Spiritual bypass doesn't move the dial forward for the collective. It might make you feel better in the moment. I'm not going to check the headlines. I'm not saying you should. I'm not going to engage in that. That's stuff that's, below me, or I can't go there. I had somebody, was just working with my wonderful clients in a class, and she said, I just can't go there. I said, I get it. It's hard to go there. So, and life is filled of places we don't want to go in our personal life and collectively. So we need to learn how to go there, but to go there in the right way. We don't want to pitch a tent there. We pitch a tent there, we get lost, we get depressed, we lose traction. We don't want you to lose traction. We want you to have all engines firing, because I am so clear that you are the leaders. We are the leaders that will usher in this next incarnation of wherever this is headed. We know it's headed someplace better. We know that all the structures that have been holding us back, imprisoning us for so long, are crumbling. We saw that last year, and everyone, not everyone, but there's the collective is freaking out as they crumble, and I imagine we'll see more reaction. And I don't know that the unrest is over just yet. It may get worse before it gets better. It almost doesn't matter if you know where you're pointed and you know how to handle it. So what's amazing to me and what's exciting to me also is that we're not schooled in this. I wasn't raised in this. I didn't, I had to, we learned from the dirt and grime of life. We learned through the school of hard knocks how to sort of pick ourselves up and keep going and just muscle through. And what if there was a better way, a more elegant way to lead and to be present and to open up to guidance? The beautiful part about what's happening is that there's new muscles being built and strengthened, where the age of the mind-led industries and mind-led living is being balanced out, not just by heart, but by a higher order. There's new paradigms being birthed that take into account the new human that's being birthed, the one that is more integrated in mind, body, and soul. That's not just, you know, we're like chickens with our heads cut off. Or you just look at the global stage or the national stage, and it's talky, or it's reaction, reaction, reaction. And when you flip up and down between head and emotion, you get nowhere. You're treading water. You're running in place, and it's not anyone's fault. We just need a new toolbox, or to sharpen the tools that are in the toolbox, because what we've inherited isn't up to the task, clearly. And when we look at those images in the news, which again, I have some people who are like, I can't go there. I think what we can see, if we can get beyond our judgment and our triggers, I think what we can see is a society that doesn't have the tools to process the upset, to do anything with this life energy that's churning, and it has to get out, or it will dis-ease our bodies, as we know. If it doesn't get out, it does harm within. So today I want to play a little bit with, what do we do with all of this discomfort? It's just so uncomfortable. We can have a drink, we can take a smoke, we can, stay online and like do online gambling. We can do all of these distraction things, but at the end of the day, there's some tough stuff out there. And so let's figure out how to manage it. I think I'm going to start with, hang on. This is again Linda trying to walk and chew gum. I'm going to start with some slides because I want to get a reaction out of you. And if you have something to comment or you have a need today, pop it in the chat. I will take a look. And my goal is we're in and out in like 30 to 40 minutes. These are like quick booster shots to help you move along your path. I'm going to start with a couple of slides so you can take a look at how your system engages with different images. Because until we can catch what we're thinking about and catch how we're feeling, we can't change it. So this is going to be a little bit of a dramatic exercise, or not dramatic, but anyway, let me just get going. So can you see that? Okay. So just take a breath and notice in your body and in your mind what's going on. Is the mind super busy? Is it shock? Is your body repulsed? Is it tight? Is it amused? Just notice what's going on. What's going on in the body and in the mind? Notice, feel it, observe it, breathe it. Get present. What you're thinking about, what's happening in the body. Oh, this is so funny. There we go. Is your breathing different? Your thoughts relax. All just noticing you, the mind, the body, the breath, the reactions, the likes, the dislikes. Are you uncomfortable in front of an image? Do you wish I would scroll faster? And you'll be happy to know I'm done. I'm done putting you through that little torture exercise. The point of that was, can you see, did you experience how you were triggered or not triggered? How you were, it's like you were pulled along by the hair of this journey with maybe some dominion over how you reacted, and maybe not. Maybe you had a reaction before you could even manage it. The whole goal is to have dominion, have mastery over what comes, how you react to what comes in. Because as much as we would like to be the wizards of the universe, in many ways, we don't have control over what comes in to our field, into our universe. And unless we live in a mountaintop in a cave, there's almost no way to escape it. So what you do have dominion over is how you react and how you behave. Does anybody want to pop in and say anything? You're welcome to either pop in on the chat or pop in by unmuting yourself or raising your hand. My goal is that you grab something today that gives you some space between thought, emotion, reaction, and the world, that reminds you that you are bigger than all of this, that the actions playing out in your personal life and on the stage, national world stage, are just scenes in a movie. They're just scenes in a movie. And I know that sounds callous. I know people's lives are at stake. I know the future is at stake. And I also know that they are scenes on a movie screen, and that we get to decide what role we're playing in that movie. We don't get to decide who's cast in which roles all the time, but we get to decide what our role is and how we want to show up for ourselves and for others. So how about if I just run through, Patty says, reactions on Wednesday were different than now. Disbelief, anger, despair are now transmuted to being observant and disengaged emotionally. Well, Patty lives in Canada. Lucky Patty. No, but thank you, Patty. We will go through the wave, and things will transmute, and this too shall pass. And as most of you know, and Bridget Cooper's here, she's the Pain Rebel. She has a book called Pain Rebel. If we don't know how to process the emotion, it will get stuck. And so, yes, observing is absolutely like step number one. That's why I showed you those pictures. And then how do we get into those cells and loosen stuff up so it doesn't fester and cause harm to ourselves and to others? So I'm going to throw out a couple of ideas, and then I'd love to crowdsource because you all are such a repository of brilliance. Christy asked, what if we don't have a strong emotion? Just notice that too. Could be one of two things. Do you have mastery so that you've defanged the triggers, in which case high five, or are you numb? Like it could be, numbness is also a reaction. It's just in the opposite direction. So only you know that, Christy. And I know you've done a lot of work, so you might just be able to stay in that neutral zone. The reason we want to stay in that neutral zone is because we can't create when we're triggered. You can't create when you're numb, and you can't create when you're on fire. And I'm not proposing that you don't take a stand for something. I'm not saying, again, don't spiritual bypass it, but take a stand or take action from that equanimity, from that neutral place, which is very hard to find and stay in when it seems like the house is on fire. So a couple of ways that I have observed that are helpful. Some are very simple. So I'll start with the simple ones. And it's all about, you can't heal it till you feel it. So we gotta feel it to heal it. Dancing, like just to move it out of the body, just to get those emotions from coagulating. So turn on some music and dance. Humor and exaggeration and caricaturization, not in a way that's going to bolster or grow the story you have around what's happening, but just the absurdity of life. I mean, look at how we're living. Look at where we're living. Look at what's happening. Like, could we just add a little levity to the situation? not to ignore it, but just to add a different dimension to what we're experiencing. Then there's the tried and true practices of things like meditation and releasing and breathing. And I am a huge proponent of that. So if you're able to get yourself there quickly, absolutely do that. Depends on who you are. If you're someone like Christy who isn't too triggered by it, she might be able to breathe through stuff a little more easily than some of us who are really, you know, we see those pictures and it's like, ugh, it's in the body. I can't quite breathe that one out. I gotta dance with a knife, like which Linda has actually done in her life. Some of you know about that. When things are really, can you sing? Can you, vibration is very healing. So can you wail it out, sing it out, scream it out, just so it gets out. These are sort of stopgap measures, or not stopgap. These are initial ways to make sure you don't put the lid on it, because that's the last thing we want to do. So dancing, laughing, screaming. Anything else anybody has, pop in the chat. Chrissy says, yes. Patty's husband has a heavy bag in the basement. It's a great to strap on with gloves. Thank you. And hit. Yes. Thank you very much. Perfect. I do really crazy ass intense yoga, which I don't recommend anybody do. Some of you know Bikram yoga with a mask on. Who does Bikram yoga with a mask on? Well, I do. And it's really cathartic because it just gets it all moving. So that's just the step one. Another step is please, when you're having a reaction, so when you looked at those pictures, how many of you popped up in your head and started spinning a story? So rule number 1 is, or rule number 10, is when you're having an emotion or a feeling, don't think. Do not think, because when you have these emotions and then you pop up and create a story around it, you've got this double-edged sword, this double knot that now you have to undo the thoughts and then you have to undo the feelings, and it just makes it so much harder. So when you can, stop the thoughts, stop. And here's a challenge for you. Can you go through a whole day without popping up in your head and creating narratives, creating stories, creating dramas, creating angst in your head? It's like those two are drunken sailors. The head and the emotional body, they have this party, especially like right before 3 in the morning when you wake up and you go, what, you had this party and left me hungover? What is going on here? So when you can, stop the thought process from grabbing the emotions and creating havoc. Another little bonus points for you is, can you go an entire day without a negative thought? That's an interesting assignment. I'm not sure I've ever done that, but maybe I have. Let me just take some of the chats here. First reaction. Great. Yes, staying present can take practice. Okay. Some other ones are, many of you have experience with tapping, EFT tapping, which is another good way to just get, and if you don't know it, you can look it up, emotional freedom technique. You tap the different meridians or the different points on your body just to keep things flowing. So as things are flowing and you're not thinking, you're getting in your lane, and you're able to then harness the creative energy and do what's yours to be done next. And then there's a couple of exercises you can look up. I'm not going to go over them while we're here today, but Byron Katie has a good series called The Work. And so you can kind of question your beliefs and kind of flip those around, because you're looking to loosen up the grip that all of this has on you. And hypnosis, one of my clients just recommended that. Doing some hypnosis is a good way to just bypass that surface mind and get to a deeper layer and let things unfurl from there. So let's crowd. What I'd like to do right now is a little bit different than I've done these problem-free zones before, but I really want to crowdsource this because we're all in this together. So that's been my experience. Thank you, Jackie. Going out at nature helps. Patty says cortices from Body Talk. Do you want to unmute yourself and share that with us, Patty? Because I don't know that one. You there, Patty?
I'd be happy to, Linda. Thank you. It's very quick and easy to do. Without getting too personal, I'll just say that my first trip out of bed in the morning while I'm sitting, Put one hand on the back of your neck. That's the implant band where all the garbage goes in, and tap across both hemispheres of the brain, and then come down and tap on your thymus, which runs your immune system. Then move your hand up, tap on your head, make sure you're covering both hemispheres, and keep moving up. What you're doing is getting the right and left side of the brain talking to each other so that one is not more in control than the other. Right down to the forehead. Then on either side of your head, tap it out again. Other side. And you're done.
So that's just balancing the energy systems or the chakras or what have you?
Balancing the hemispheres of the brain.
Okay. Say more about what happens in the hemispheres in the brain when we're out of balance. Like what would we experience?
One of the things that I find if I'm faced with something that makes me very angry or very fearful is I go down that rabbit hole and keep looking for more evidence and, getting into all that garbage. When you balance that with the creative side of your brain, which looks for solutions, which looks for fun, which looks for expression, then you don't get sucked down into the black hole of Calcutta. And if you find yourself feeling out of balance, you can do this as many times as you want all through the day. And when you start doing it, I recommend you do it all through the day. Anytime you catch yourself starting to go off on one of those little negative trails and about to drop, do the cortices. Takes less than a minute, and it will get you back with your creative side talking to the linear side and keeping you balanced as you're processing stuff through your day.
Thank you. That's a new one. I really appreciate that. I know you've just been doing.
My pleasure.
Wow, I got to look into that. Christy, do you want to unmute and talk a little bit about? Christy is a self-care queen. We never do enough self-care. So, Christy, do you want to give us a couple of your tips on that?
Sure. And actually, I first want to say that, my platform about human design, self-care came from human design because it was through working with Linda and just understanding human design. We all are different energy and blueprints. So the self-care that I do may not be what you need to do or what you desire. So it's got to be really, I do a 7-step process to help someone create a plan that's based on first, what's the intention? What are you desiring? And then what kind of self-care practices can support that? So for some people it might be going into nature. For some, it's just taking quiet time. For some introverts, it might actually be being with other people because just to not get so introverted, or vice versa. If you're an extrovert and right now you're around by yourself, socializing can be self-care. So it's very specific. And I just think we all have to do that inner work to understand what it is.
Oh, that's so good. Differentiated self-care. I love that. I love that. It's like one of my daughters is like, I don't like taking baths. I'm like, what? How can you not like taking a bath? It's too hot. So that's perfect. Thank you. Dr. Bridget Cooper, are you there, dear? Pain Rebel woman? Do you have any thoughts on
here?
Do you have any thoughts on how to not unleash the pain, release the pain?
Yeah, you can unleash the pain. I think the thing that comes to mind for me is that the one image that when I saw it, that I had an emotional reaction to, and if you could have seen my eyes, I looked over here so I didn't have to see the full image, was of our current president. And because it was so personal, it was so eye to eye. And so it was very intimate to me. And what that made me feel was anger. And I thought about, and you and I have had this conversation before, that we tend to judge our emotions as being good or bad. So if we're feeling loving, that's good. If we're feeling angry, that's bad. And when we do that, we don't allow for them to give us the information that we need and to give us the invitation that we need to make something different. So I'm often curiously looked at when I say how beautiful rage is. And I say that knowing what we saw in the Capitol steps was the expression of the rage in an unhealthy manner. when the feeling of rage could have been very instructive to be able to take action or process or grieve or, all of these other things. So I guess my thing about looking at all these images and experiencing all this upheaval is to recognize and not judge the emotion and allow it to give us information before we feel compelled to express it or shove it down in a way that doesn't serve us or the collective.
Nice. Nice. Thank you.
Without any respect to human design, Christy, so I apologize very much. I totally messed that up. I had nothing to do with human design, but that's my overall without that.
Well, there are some universals. There's some universals that do apply. So
There are some, but I'm sure I need to dig more into mine to be able to give a better informed answer on that one.
no, that's beautiful. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they want to toss in the mix into how to move beyond the stuck spot that they know works for them?
Linda, this is Jacqueline Kane. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely tapping. And I do something called ancestral clearing, which sometimes we're carrying energy from our ancestors, which cause us to react so much faster than normal. So looking at the energy that we're carrying and all these things that everybody has mentioned are great ways to get back into balance. So looking at the emotional and the energetic that you're carrying, and is the energy you're carrying yours, or are you reacting because of a way that you've been taught and trained, and that's your programming? And then again, how can you release that programming?
Perfect.
So-
Yeah, that's beautiful. Reminds me of the work of Michael Singer, which some of you may know. He wrote the Surrender Experiment, and he's got something called Living the Art of Surrender. It's a beautiful audio if any of you are just looking for something to play in the background. And he talks about, I'm picking up on your conditioning comment there, Jacqueline, about, what's it called? Rattlesnakes and butterflies, that through life we get conditioned and patterned over and over and over. So when we
Yes.
see a rattlesnake or the president's face, we react one way, and when you see a butterfly or a baby or a mountaintop, we react another way. And
Right.
it's just automatic. It's just in our wiring. And so to really pay mind and do doesn't have to be deep, but consistent commitment to deconditioning. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. And awareness is the first part.
Yes.
So just know that you're doing that first, and then how can you change that?
Exactly. And awareness is curative, as they say. And so just being aware of what you're thinking about and what you're feeling is halfway home. And then you can pick
Right.
up a tool and transmute it. We don't want to stuff it like we've all talked about. We don't want to spew it. We want to transmute it. So yeah, okay. What a time. Anyone else have brilliant pearl to drop in here as we wind things down, or we can stay. I just like to have these pop in, pop out. I am just so in awe that you all showed up to take the next step towards healing your life and the world. That you know this is not where we want to live, and you know there's a better path, and that collectively we are finding it. It's not that we will find it, we are finding it. And so if I can make any invitation for you right now, it's know that it's an invitation for you to know and to claim your leadership position here, however that looks. If it's just you're nicer to somebody at the grocery store, great. If it's that you're going to take your business in a different direction to be, more of service, that's great too. It doesn't matter how, but just the fact that you showed up here and that you heard the call in whatever you wrote or saw that I did in the last couple of days. Yes, yes, and thank you, and keep going, and you've got this, and together we will, and better days are ahead. And it is so exciting to think what's on the other side of this, because we don't actually know, except we do know there's new paradigms, new humans, new systems of collaboration and partnership that are being birthed right now. And while it's a really uncomfortable birth process, we're stuck in that freaking canal certain days, what's coming out is gorgeous. And you are gorgeous. And thank you for answering the call and saying yes, because we'll do this together. Whew. Amen, sister and brother, right? And so with that, I'll officially end our session, but I'm happy to stay and just commune because it's so beautiful to see so many of you. So there you have it. If you need to go, pop off. If you want to hang and chat, love to. I'm looking at all the comments. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if anybody wants, just read your emails. There's something next week. We'll talk about it next week. I can't walk and chew gum. Yeah. Jennifer, I'm not planning on emailing the recordings because I feel like these are intimate gatherings. So the answer to that is no. Except that you were here. So if you want a copy, you may have a copy. But I'm not going to distribute it widely. And one of the reasons, for those of you who know human design and those of you who don't, I want to pique your interest. One of the reasons I do it this way, and I prefer there be like 15 people, is because that's in my design. My sweet spot is up to about 15 people. And that's, I could do this as a webinar. I could do this as a Facebook Live where I don't see anybody, but as a generator with a certain configuration. A small group interaction is best. So I appreciate you all showing up and responding. Thank you, Patty. Love to you all. Yeah. Margaret. And Monica, I haven't seen some of you folks in a while. Betty, it's beautiful, beautiful. If you want to stay after, tell me what you're doing. Monica, Betty. Neil, is it snowing yet? You know, I know you're waiting for the snow.
No, it's a beautiful sunny day here.
Yeah, here too.
You know, I've just been, kind of listening and processing, and just to share, just not to kind of like sit and not participate. I think the I'm annoyingly rational, and the funny part for me about this week is it's kind of like, whew, finally it's happened. And yeah, kind of this kind of a little bit more philosophical on America in some ways. It's sort of like 9/11 was the start.
Yes, they
It was
say that.
kind of like, oh, we get to experience what the rest of the world experiences. And so sort of tuning into the conversation, a lot of I'm really driven by inclusion, and I've facilitated a lot of people over 25 or 30 years, and so my role in that particular process was around gathering people around aligning what they want. And I find most of the conflict is over a lack of resources. But what we want is pretty much the same.
As humans, absolutely, right? Love, success,
right.
Abundance.
It's like trying to get people. And so for me, like this wake up, Jefferson said, if I had to choose between anarchy or despotism, I choose anarchy. And I kind of feel like we've had both in parallel.
Kind of in the same day, right?
Right. And but I where I go to is nature, right? Yeah. I get out, but nature's my God. And so one of the places I've really sought over the years is to get away from judgment, because it does really toxic things for me. And so I kind of like try to find where the common interest is on people who are seemingly diametrically opposed from me, because
I read something recently. I think it was Alan Watts. It was a brilliant quote. I need to drum it up. That said, my viewpoint is that everybody is right. I was like, wow, And he said, including me. Everybody's telling the truth, not telling the truth. Everybody's right, including me. And
Right.
isn't that a perspective that
Right.
might be
And
helpful?
so I kind of feel like we're at the crescendo of some people in society who have not been heard for a long time,
Yes,
been put
yes,
down,
yes.
and that's not a pretty process.
No,
And you know the people I think about right now, like Nelson Mandela, who came out of, you know, could have started something really bad, and chose, you know, a truth and reconciliation process to really understand. It's not perfect, it's not pretty, but so so when I'm, you know, definitely, you know, breathing, and when I kind of feel myself getting, you know, edgy, etc., I do a pause. You know, Mel Robbins, who was at a conference of ours, has this 5 4 3 2 1 technique, you know, which is like when you start going on, I think it's like 5 4 3 2 1, you know, interrupt the brain. But I really try to seek to understand and not judgment, because there's a lot of judgment that goes on. There's plenty of that.
yeah. Yeah, there's no shortage of that. There's a shortage of breathing and understanding and listening.
So you know, I have a huge amount of optimism around what's going on right now. And if we kind of follow nature, you know, which we're just one of 28 species of nature, right? Where nature has a funny way of really disrupting something that needs to change.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, and
Mm.
I think everyone here would agree. It's all moving in the next direction, which is needed. It's just like I said, a little painful birth. Like, where's the epidural?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there were Wednesday for me was a mixture of really disturbing images, because I love America. I mean, it's like, you know, when I as a kid, young man in the UK watching the Watergate process, I was just blown away by America. And it's sort of interesting to me in the 42 years I've been here, how the evolution of change and what's, you know, kind of what's happened to America and where we are now compared to where I came here in 1978. So that's not necessarily a very well organized set of thoughts, but I didn't want to just not talk.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that, Neil. Thank you. Anyone else have any parting thoughts? Okay.
If I can share my observations from north of the border,
Yeah.
I said when he announced his candidacy, they're in for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband will attest that for the last 4 years, I have been saying, you watch, it's
Mm-hmm.
like the Wizard of Oz. There's this big booming head, and he's talking all this stuff and building people up and revving them up, and it's dictatorship, dismantling of democracy, etc. Well, what happened Wednesday was Toto finally pulled the curtain across.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a lot of people who don't see,
Mm-hmm.
but they will.
Mhm.
And when I got over my initial shock that people would assault the bastion of democracy the way they did, I started to think there's a reason this happened. And there's a reason it happened now.
Mhm.
And it's our job to figure out what we do with this.
Yeah.
And what you as Americans do with it.
Yeah.
To make the changes that obviously need to be made so that we can rise, everybody, but especially all of you. You have had a collective wounding of the heart.
Yeah.
And that will take some getting over. So I
Yeah.
sit here sending love and blessings and hope that this is moved forward quickly for all of you.
Thank you, Patty. I will never forget a few years ago, Patty wouldn't, wouldn't come to a local retreat we had. She's been in our tribe for a while. You came once, right? And then like the next year, like, yeah, no, I'm not coming. I think it was, he was elected after, in the second time, you're like, yeah, I'm not coming. Just don't trust it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
I have a husband who is Black. I will not cross the border so long as that man is in power. I just won't.
Yeah.
There's too much nonsense that goes along with his presidency.
Mhm.
And I love my husband and my life too much.
Yeah.
Even though I love you lots too, Linda.
I understood.
Yeah. Oh, I know you did. I know you did.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can have him. Hopefully he'll be gone soon and life will get better again. And who knows, maybe I will come and visit you again someday.
Oh, well, anyway.
I delivered a presentation about 13 years ago, um, quite scarily, saying, the empire is over, the king has no clothes, welcome to the age of sanity. And it was a parallel to, growing up in the UK, and, the late 60s in the UK were started to be a really bad time. We had members of parliament introducing bills to send all the immigrants back. And, England at that point, once we got to the wheat embargo and the oil embargo in 74, I was working in a supermarket and I was doubling the price of canned goods every 3 months.
Wow.
And so we found out that the empire was over about 10 or 15 years ago, and we didn't know. And that, the 70s in the UK were a really, really ugly time, and it led to Thatcher. And this huge, huge correction, with back then it was a class system. My parents sent me to elocution for 6 years to change the way I talked, so I'd have a better chance at a job. And I just kind of feel like that's what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm sort of like, okay, finally we're here. And this person, by divine intervention, came in to provide a mirror. And now, like as Patty was saying, well, now we got to do, now we have to do something about it. And I don't think we could have done anything. I in facilitating, I never knew any significant, meaningful change that came without significant crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. What did they say? The wound is where the light comes through. Something like that. There's a quote like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But these things, I think that, over this past year, kind of we're all, we kind of were shifting, and COVID is a real external force, like, oh my God, the vulnerability of the planet in so many ways. And so it's shifting so many different things, and that we're having to, we've had to do a lot of adaptation in the past year. And we don't know when it's going to end.
That's why, as we said, for self-care is huge. Processing all the emotions is huge, because we're in,
Yeah.
we're in for a little bit of a ride still.
Yeah.
But
So I appreciate you, Linda, for what you're, kind of inspiring here, and what's sort of going on around the country. Because my word for 2021 is togetherness.
nice. Oh, awesome. So how about on that one, we just like take each other in each other's hearts and bless each other, and with intense gratitude for showing up and communing together.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to see you. And there's something next week. I'm not sure if it's going to be what I was planning for it to be, but there'll be something next week. So stay tuned.
We've still got 12 days. Still got 12 days yet. So who knows?
So peace and blessings to you all. I just
All right. Peace to you
heartfelt with
all.
gratitude. We'll see you next time. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
You will.